players, we have a mission today. This is your fearless leader here, Dollar Store Miguel O'Hara, and we have to, it is absolutely imperative to apprehend Spider-Man Miles Morales of Earth 1610. Why, you ask? Well, what he has done, what he continues to do. Well, players, it's putting us all in danger. So much so that the whole Rizverse is now collapsing in upon itself.
It's easier to be Miles flirting with Gwen when I'm looking at Haley.
When you're looking at her, right.
So I can, like, be closer to Haley. It's easier looking at Haley being Miles trying to get to Gwen.
Game over.
Embarrassing.
Bless his soul for trying. I mean, who wouldn't? But I can't let my man's Shaolin Fantastic, the lady killing romantic, get this face made at him again. I cannot stand it. I personally would have cast Reducto on myself, but that's just me. So players, a while back, I caught myself a ticket, not just any ticket really, but an IMAX ticket for Across the Spider-Verse. I made time off of work in advance to go see it. I finished my morning routine to go watch it early at 3 o'clock in my area, and as I get to the theater, I see a paper sign on the door with words that I made out were IMAX on it, so I immediately disregarded it as it was too long, and I wasn't gonna read all that shit. But I go to the stupid ticket machine that were designed by some remedial ass individuals, since you have to basically give the machine a lap dance so it can read your QR code. But when it wasn't giving me my ticket, I went on red alert mode internally, of course, talked to one of the ushers, and she informed me that the reason that was happening is because the IMAX theater just so happened to be down that day at that time. So I reacted as only a based, stoic Sigma Lord Chad would do and got myself the hell out of there. Okay, I was pissed because I love watching movies in IMAX. I had been anticipating this, but with all the good word about this movie, I made an executive cash money move and I bought a ticket for a smaller theater at a later time. So I went later on that day. I had to skip out on the usual popcorn and cherry icy on account of smoking on that Popeyes pack before the movie. And I gotta say, Across the Spider-Verse is pretty damn good. But of course, people act like two legends cannot exist. Only true kings know they can. But of course, we got so many people fighting over which is the better Spider-Verse movie. Is this the actual best Spider-Man movie? Is Miles Morales Spider-Man? Which, so many topics, so many emotions, so many arguments that don't really need to be had. But I will get to all of those and more and give my personal rating on the film. So without further ado, let's hit the plot first. The plot. Don't you hate when that happens? Basically, because the events of the first movie with the super collider exploding in the end, and this bagel right here, it's caused a chain reaction of anomalies, which are individuals from other universes popping into other universes they are not native to, as well causing the creation of the main antagonist of the film, the Spot, who was the bagel guy from the first movie. So everything is all tied together. You have to watch closely, Attack on Titan style. Just kidding, I haven't finished Attack on Titan. Shout out to Hot Trick Films. But this was the catalyst for the second antagonist of the film, the one, the only, for now, Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of the year 2099, to travel to these different dimensions with members of the Spider Society that he has gathered from the multiverse to ensure it doesn't collapse because of these anomalies or the altering of canon events that must occur in order for the multiverse to remain stable, or else they cause a quantum hole that will unravel the universe. But the new villain, the Spot, is adamant to prove himself as anything but a joke, anything but the villain of the week, by traveling throughout the multiverse to different super colliders to gain more power to use against Miles. Miles gets in the way of a canon event and then is adamant to change one, specifically that being the death of a captain in a Spider-Man's life, which his father will be soon a captain. And so in Spider-Man fashion, he believes there is a way to save his father and the multiverse, but Miguel and the Spider Society are too jaded from their experiences to be that idealistic. Miguel's fervor coming from the fact that he broke the canon once himself, finding a version of himself in the multiverse that was happy, and thinking once that version died, he could just come into that universe and replace him and enjoy a life with family. And that universe eventually unraveled disastrously. His child in his arms disappeared before his eyes. So you can understand understand where Miguel's coming from, but also the idealism that Miles holds of trying to save everyone. So this is why everyone is chasing him in the trailers, and in the end of this movie, we get a lot of reveals and certain things take on new or different or even more meanings. When Gwen tries to stop Miles from saving the captain of the Mumbatan universe, we thought it was her wanting to keep him safe, but it ended up being so he didn't alter a canon event, which she was aware of, but she didn't tell him. When Miguel is berating Miles about him not supposed to have been Spider-Man in the first place, we find out that his closest homies, Peter B. Parker and Gwen, knew about Miguel's plans but didn't tell Miles. That's also why they've avoided visiting him. In the end, Miles escapes, of course, and uses the DNA spider machine to transport himself out of there, but the twist slash cliffhanger of the movie is that it takes him not to his home dimension, but the dimension that the spider who bit him came from, and it is torn up without a Spider-Man, okay? The whole universe, or the world at least, in New York looks in complete disarray, and we find that Miles' dad has already died in this universe. Uncle Aaron is still alive, but not the Prowler, as this universe's Miles is revealed to be the Prowler. All the while, Miguel gets his crew to hunt down Miles versus Gwen, getting exiled from the Spider Society, but Hobie Brown left her his multiversal watch, so she assembles her team to try and save Miles, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. Now, is this movie good? Yes, absolutely. It's fucking awesome. Amazing dynamic action scenes, beautiful set pieces, a great emotional, compelling story with twists and turns, as well as compelling characters and antagonists. The progression of Miles' confidence as Spider-Man was great to see, as well as his relationship with his parents and him trying so desperately to tell them the truth about him being Spider-Man. We got to see more of Gwen's life fleshed out in the beginning in her own universe, which, although I was really eager to see Miles and just wanting to see him again, was pretty nice to see, especially seeing what happened with her version of Peter Parker. Peter B. Parker was a delight to see again. I love seeing that guy as a spider dad, okay? Don't shit your pants, Marvel Comics, of the little one, Mayday Parker. She was so adorable. Very, very fun times. Meeting the Indian Spider-Man, I cannot pronounce the name, I won't try, in Mumbahatan, was fun as hell, as well as Hobie Brown was pretty hilarious, played by the great Daniel Kaluuya. Not to mention, this movie is literal art, okay? I know people are already blowing enough smoke up this movie's ass, but it is kind of deserved. So allow me to inhale from the vape of truth. You could hang this movie up in an art museum. The scenes, especially of Gwen and Captain Stacy, where the backgrounds and colors would change to reflect the emotion of each character in the room, was beautiful. So many different art and animation styles mixed together so well in an epic but still very like Miles-centric story. The themes of sacrifice and destiny are kind of core to the character of Spider-Man, so to see them explored in the way they were was also really great. Now, I really like this movie, but again, no movie is perfect. I see so many people giving it a 10 out of 10, which I feel defeats the purpose of a 10 rating, and I did have my own issues with this movie, primarily being Miguel O'Hara. Yes, my favorite alternate Spider-Man, the OG Latino Spider-Man. I love how badass he was represented and how much of a beast he was, but I feel like they are just barely scratching the surface of what Miguel is as a character. I trust Christopher Miller and Philip Lord. They've earned it with these amazing films, so I'd imagine they'd expand on his character in Beyond the Spider-Verse next year, but he is so much more than the antagonist they're painting him out to be. Super intelligent geneticist with, you know, that spicy side, as we've all seen, but the world of 2099 he comes from and the relationships he has with his mother and brother and everyone in 2099 are deeply important, and I just wish we got a little bit more of that. I think this will be a lot of people's first exposure to Miguel O'Hara, even though he's been around since the 90s. So in my opinion, although I get it's a Miles story and he had a compelling reason to be the antagonist, I felt like they could have done a better job fleshing him out. But regardless, it's just nice to see him. So many things from the first movie are being uncovered as, you know, things that were foreshadowing or setups. Like, I would have never guessed this, but that just means this story had an insane amount of effort and forethought put into it, and for that reason its success is apparent. As far as that goes, is this the best Spider-Man movie? You see, people, it is so hard for me personally to compare live action to animation, okay? I think sometimes one is obviously superior, but I feel like they're just two different mediums, and in animation you can do certain things and get away with certain things because it's animation as opposed to live action. Certain things I saw in the movie I feel would have been picked apart had it been portrayed scene for scene in live action. This is hopefully not coming across as an animation is not cinema argument, because I truly do believe that animation is cinema. I think this movie is cinema, and I love too many animated movies to say otherwise. But I say this to preface what I'm about to say, is that in terms of the best Spider-Man movie, probably still is Spider-Verse as a whole. whole, I think that movie was so concise and well executed, but with my favorite still being No Way Home, and I still stand by it being the best in live action. I know the Spider-Man 2 chads are gonna lose their marbles after this, but although Sam Raimi made an absolutely amazing and excellent Peter Parker story with Spider-Man 2, No Way Home making it so not just Peter, but his loved ones' lives were ruined, and then progressively digging that knife in over the duration of the movie, culminating in Peter's ultimate sacrifice, was just so deeply moving to me. Just what that movie was able to accomplish on paper should not have worked, but it did, and it did so well. Across the Spider-Verse is probably, if we're including everything, tied with No Way Home in second for me. It's such a beautiful film that's fresh and compelling. That's why I'm giving Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse a fluctuating 9 to 9.5 out of 10. Tons of humor, heart, art, action, emotion, and those beloved cameos. Okay, I do hope Donald Glover comes through as Prowler eventually in live action. I love the Yuri Lowenthal little PS4 Spider-Man thing. I don't know if they're saving Donald Glover for live action Miles Morales movie, because that's apparently in development. I just hope they let Peter Parker get to 6 or 7 movies in the franchise before we introduce Miles. 9 with 3 trilogies would be in an absolute perfect world without war or hunger, but realistically, I think we get a total of 6 MCU Spider-Man films and maybe appearances later on with Peter becoming a dad and eventually marrying MJ in the MCU, and even maybe retiring as Spider-Man at the end of Miles' first movie would be great. So with all these beguiling conversations, arguments, and shitposts, of course, the question of, is Miles Morales Spider-Man? What I'm about to say is going to be easy, meaning this is relatively widely accepted and not going against the overall grain. Miles Morales is in fact Spider-Man. It's pretty simple, okay? He is Spider-Man in the same way Miguel O'Hara is Spider-Man, or that even Ben Reilly is Spider-Man. Spider-Gwen is some type of Spider-Woman, but he, along with all of them, are variations of the Spider-Man. So none of them are the Spider-Man, but they all are Spider-Man. The Spider-Man title is reserved for Peter Parker, okay? I love Miles from his movies, the Insomniac games, and the assortment of comics I've read of him. He was cool, but he can't replace the OG Peter Parker to me and a lot of other people. He will always be the Spider-Man. But here's the thing, much in the same way Wally West or even Jon Stewart being the characters that they were on the Justice League, being kind of the second to take on the mantle from the previous characters of Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, that show was super influential to a whole generation of kids, and most of those kids' first exposure to those two characters solidified in their heads of the kids of that generation that was Green Lantern and that was the Flash. So it's really all about when we meet these characters and how they affect us. So although Miles isn't the Spider-Man to me and a lot of other people, eventually he will be the Spider-Man for a generation. Time changes, icons change, the way Marvel Comics is handling Spider-Man right now, I honestly wouldn't mind them retiring him in the main 616 for a decade and just tell Miles stories, okay? The character has been around for so long, there are only so many lessons you can put him through before you start shitting on him like they're doing now in comics. So with that being said, players, I do hope people always know who Peter Parker is. I love the character so deeply, but I don't want him to be getting disrespected anymore. But with that all being said, players, let me know if you saw the movie, what you thought of it, your personal rating, the things you liked, the things you didn't like, your ranking. You know, is this better than Into the Spider-Verse? Is this the best Spider-Man movie out of all the Spider-Man movies ever to you? Let me know. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope all you guys are well, and I'll see you in the next one.